The morning sun cast a golden hue over the White House lawn, filtering through the towering oaks and casting long, dancing shadows. Barron Trump, the youngest son of President Donald Trump, was seated on the terrace, his laptop open before him. Unlike most teenagers his age, Barron's interests had evolved beyond mere gaming and social media. He had developed a fascination with technology, artificial intelligence, and the rapidly changing digital landscape. As he sipped his morning tea, his phone buzzed. It was an email from Meta, the tech giant behind Facebook, Instagram, and the cutting-edge virtual reality platform, Metaverse. Barron's eyes widened as he read the bold subject line. Invitation to speak at Meta Conclave 2025, Silicon Valley, California. For a moment, he thought it might be a prank. After all, he was just 18, fresh out of high school with only a few public appearances to his name. But as he read further, it became clear this was a genuine invitation personally signed by Mark Zuckerberg himself. Dear Barron, we have been closely following your insights on the future of digital spaces and the metaverse. Your recent article on the ethics of virtual economies impressed us, and we believe your voice could provide a unique perspective to our audience at the upcoming Meta Conclave 2025. We would be honored to have you as a keynote speaker. Barron leaned back, exhaling slowly. This was big. He had written that article as part of a tech blog he contributed to under a pseudonym, thinking it would simply float among the countless voices of the internet. He hadn't expected the CEO of Meta to notice. He closed his laptop, the gravity of the opportunity sinking in. He had a choice to make: remain in the shadows or step into the spotlight and share his vision for the future of technology with some of the brightest minds on the planet. Later that evening, over a quiet dinner in the White House dining room, Barron hesitantly broached the topic with his father. Dad, I got an invitation to speak at the Meta Conclave next month. Donald Trump paused, his fork hovering over a perfectly cooked steak. He looked up, his sharp blue eyes locking onto Barron's. Meta Conclave? Trump echoed, a mix of curiosity and pride flickering in his eyes. That's Zuckerberg's big tech show, right? Barron nodded. Yeah. They want me to do a keynote speech. I was thinking, maybe I should go. Trump's lips curled into a proud smile, his eyes gleaming with a rare softness. Son, if there's one thing I've always believed, it's that you should never pass up a chance to make your voice heard. If you think you've got something important to say, then say it. Just remember, be strong, be clear, and don't let anyone intimidate you. Barron felt a surge of confidence at his father's words. He knew this was a defining moment, a chance to step out from the long shadow of his father's presidency and carve his own path. Over the next few weeks, Barron dove deep into research, spending hours in the White House library, consulting with tech experts and refining his speech. He knew he couldn't just talk about the latest gadgets or VR headsets. If he was going to take that stage, he had to deliver a message that would resonate far beyond the confines of Silicon Valley. As the days ticked down to the Meta Conclave, Barron's nerves built, but so did his resolve. He had always been the quiet one, the Trump the world knew the least about. But now he was ready to change that. The day of the Meta Conclave arrived, and the air in Silicon Valley buzzed with anticipation. The sprawling Meta campus, a marvel of glass and steel, glistened under the California sun as tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders from around the world poured in. Barron's motorcade pulled up to the main entrance, a sleek convoy of black SUVs marked by the unmistakable presence of the Secret Service. As he stepped out, adjusting the cufflinks on his tailored navy suit, the hum of camera shutters and the murmur of the crowd filled the air. The press had caught wind of his surprise appearance, and whispers of Barron Trump rippled through the gathered crowd like a wave. As he walked through the glass doors into the main lobby, a tall figure stepped forward, extending his hand with a confident smile. It was Mark Zuckerberg, the tech titan himself. Barron. It's great to finally meet you in person, Zuckerberg said, his tone warm but his eyes sharp, clearly assessing the young Trump. Barron shook his hand firmly, meeting his gaze without a hint of intimidation. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Zuckerberg. It's an honor to be here. Zuckerberg gestured for Barron to follow him as they walked through the sleek, futuristic halls of Meta's headquarters. I have to admit, I was impressed with your article on virtual economies. It's rare to see someone your age with such a deep understanding of the ethical challenges we face. Barron offered a modest smile. I appreciate that. I've always believed that the digital world needs as much moral guidance as the real one. They arrived at a set of polished steel doors which slid open to reveal the main hall of the conclave. The massive auditorium was a sea of eager faces illuminated by the soft glow of countless screens. Barron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He was about to step onto a stage that had hosted legends like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, men who had shaped the world through their ideas. As the introduction music boomed through the hall, Barron took his place backstage, watching the massive LED screens cycle through a series of high-tech graphics, each one more impressive than the last. His heart raced, but his mind remained sharp, focused. Finally, the lights dimmed and a voice echoed through the auditorium. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Barron Trump." The crowd erupted in applause as Barron stepped onto the stage, the spotlight catching the gleam of his polished shoes. He paused for a moment, taking in the sight of thousands of faces turned toward him, their expectations hanging in the air like the static before a storm. Barron adjusted the microphone, his mind flashing back to his father's words, "Be strong, be clear, and don't let anyone intimidate you." He felt a surge of confidence as he began to speak. "Thank you, everyone, for that warm welcome," he began, his voice clear and steady. "When I first received this invitation, I asked myself a simple question: what could an 18-year-old possibly say to a room full of the world's most brilliant tech minds? But then I realized perhaps that's exactly why I should be here. To offer a fresh perspective, one that isn't yet clouded by decades of corporate strategy or stockholder pressure." A ripple of approving nods moved through the audience. Barron felt the tension ease slightly, his words landing exactly as he had hoped. He continued, his confidence growing with each sentence. "We stand at a crossroads in human history. The technologies we create today will define the lives of billions tomorrow. But with great power comes great responsibility. It's not enough to simply build platforms that connect people, we must ensure those platforms protect the very essence of what makes us human." As he spoke, the screens behind him came to life, displaying sleek, animated graphics that synchronized perfectly with his words. The crowd, initially skeptical, began to lean in, their attention sharpening. Barron was no longer just the son of a president. He was a young visionary, a voice for his generation, challenging the tech titans to think beyond profits and platforms. He had their attention, and he intended to keep it. Barron paused, letting the energy in the room settle before diving deeper. He knew this was his moment to challenge the very people who had shaped the digital world, to push them to consider not just what they were building, but why they were building it. As we stand here today on the brink of a new digital era, we have to ask ourselves a critical question, he said, his voice steady but impassioned. Are we creating tools to empower humanity, or are we building cages of convenience? A hush fell over the audience. Barron had struck a nerve, and he could sense it. He continued, his words flowing with a confidence that surprised even himself. "I've grown up in a world where technology has connected every corner of the globe, where the click of a button can spark revolutions or save lives. But it's also a world where data has become the new oil, a resource to be mined, refined, and sold, often without the knowledge or consent of the people it belongs to." He stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the stage. The metaverse, Web3, and AI are not just buzzwords. They are the building blocks of our digital future. But if we fail to lay these foundations on ethical principles, we risk creating a dystopian world where our lives are reduced to mere data points. The screens behind him lit up with images of bustling digital marketplaces, virtual classrooms, and interconnected smart cities, painting a vivid picture of the future. Barron continued, his eyes scanning the faces in the crowd. Imagine a world where your digital identity is as important as your physical one, where your personal data is treated as a fundamental human right, not a product to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. Imagine a metaverse where creativity and collaboration are rewarded, not just monetized. This is the future I believe in. The audience, now fully engaged, leaned in as Barron raised a pointed question. But who will control this future? Will it be shaped by a handful of corporations, or will it be built on the collective contributions of billions of users? He paused, letting the weight of the question sink in. If we truly believe in the power of connection, then we must also believe in the power of choice. Users should have the right to control their data, to understand the algorithms that influence their lives, and to hold tech giants accountable. Barron's words cut through the room, his message both a challenge and a call to action. He glanced briefly at Zuckerberg, who sat in the front row, his expression unreadable but his attention razor-sharp. Barron knew he had just walked into the lion's den, but he was determined to leave a mark. He continued, his tone shifting from critique to inspiration. We have an incredible opportunity, a chance to redefine what it means to be connected, to create platforms that elevate human potential rather than diminish it. We can build a digital world that reflects the best of our humanity, one where innovation serves the common good, not just the bottom line. The audience broke into spontaneous applause, a wave of energy rolling through the hall. Barron felt his confidence soar, his pulse racing with the thrill of speaking truth to power. He took a deep breath, preparing to drive his message home. Let's not forget, technology should serve people, not the other way around. It's time to move beyond mere connectivity and strive for genuine community. As his words echoed through the hall, Barron could see a shift in the crowd. What had started as a room full of skeptical tech elites had transformed into a captivated audience, their eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity, respect, and perhaps a bit of introspection. As the applause died down, Barron took a step back, his heart pounding but his mind clear. He had captured their attention, now he just had to hold it. The applause lingered in the air, a sign that Barron had struck a chord. He glanced around the room, his eyes meeting those of tech giants, venture capitalists, and industry disruptors who had come to see if the youngest Trump had anything meaningful to say. He knew this was his moment to push the conversation even further. As we shape this digital future, we have a responsibility, not just to our shareholders or our user base, but to society itself, Barron continued, his voice growing firmer. Because if we get this wrong, the consequences will be felt for generations. The screens behind him shifted, displaying a series of stark statistics: rising digital addiction rates, mental health crises linked to social media, and the growing digital divide. He gestured to the numbers behind him. These aren't just statistics. They're a warning. We're already seeing the effects of a digital world that prioritizes engagement over well-being, that values profit over privacy. The room grew noticeably quieter. Barron felt the eyes of powerful CEOs and engineers fixed on him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and unease. He knew he was treading on sensitive ground, challenging the very people who had built the platforms that now dominated billions of lives. But it doesn't have to be this way, he pressed on. What if we built digital spaces that prioritized mental health, that encouraged real, meaningful connections instead of endless scrolling? What if our algorithms didn't just maximize ad revenue but also maximized human potential? Barron took a step closer to the edge of the stage, his posture confident and his tone unwavering. He was no longer just speaking, he was challenging an industry to rethink its very foundations. I'm not here to point fingers or place blame. I'm here to invite you, the pioneers of this digital age, to join me in imagining a better, more humane internet. One where users are partners, not products. Where innovation serves the many, not just the few. He paused, letting his words hang in the air before delivering his boldest line yet. And to those of you who sit at the top of this industry, who hold the power to shape this future, I have a simple question: are you brave enough to disrupt yourselves before someone else does? A murmur rippled through the audience. Barron could see heads nodding, a few whispered conversations breaking out among the front rows. He had their attention, perhaps even their respect. As the screens behind him shifted once more, now displaying a hopeful montage of virtual classrooms, remote medical consultations, and innovative tech solutions for the underserved, Barron took a deep breath. We have the tools, the talent, and the technology to create something extraordinary. But it will take courage, the courage to put people before profits, to choose long-term impact over short-term gain. The applause started slowly, a few scattered claps that quickly built into a powerful, sustained wave of appreciation. Barron felt a rush of adrenaline, a sense of purpose he hadn't expected. He stepped back, letting the applause wash over him, a small smile breaking through his usually reserved expression. He had come to the Meta Conclave as the youngest speaker in its history, an outsider in a world of industry titans. But as he looked out over the sea of faces, he realized he had found his voice, and it was being heard. As the applause finally died down, Barron took a steadying breath, knowing he still had one final point to make, a closing message that would leave an indelible mark on this crowd of digital pioneers. As the applause gradually faded, Barron took a step back from the podium, letting the room settle into an expectant silence. He could feel the pulse of the moment, the weight of the words he had just spoken hanging in the air. He had challenged the titans of tech, and now he needed to leave them with a vision that would echo beyond the walls of the sleek Silicon Valley auditorium. He leaned into the microphone, his tone shifting to one of earnest resolve. I want to leave you with a final thought, he began, his voice steady. Technology is a tool, a powerful one, but it is only as good as the intentions behind it. It can either divide us, trapping us in echo chambers and digital silos, or it can unite us, bridging gaps and building understanding. The screens behind him flickered to life once more, displaying scenes of young students in remote villages connecting to the world through satellite internet, of doctors performing life-saving surgeries guided by AI, A family separated by distance but brought together through virtual reality. These are the stories we should be telling, Barron said, his voice carrying the passion of someone who had seen both the promise and the peril of the digital age. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the technology, it's about the people it serves. He paused, his eyes scanning the faces in the crowd, some thoughtful, others clearly moved, a few even nodding in agreement. I believe in a future where our digital lives enhance our real ones, where our screens are windows to a better world, not just distractions from it. And I believe that future starts here, today, with all of us. The applause began again, this time stronger, more sustained. Barron felt a surge of relief and pride, the adrenaline of the moment washing over him like a wave. He had taken a risk, stepped into a world dominated by seasoned tech giants, and held his own. As he took a step back, preparing to exit the stage, a figure rose from the front row, Mark Zuckerberg. The Meta CEO, known for his measured demeanor and calculated decisions, was on his feet, his hands coming together in a deliberate, powerful clap. Others quickly followed, rising from their seats in a cascade of standing ovations that spread through the massive hall. Barron blinked, momentarily taken aback. He had expected polite applause, perhaps even a few awkward nods of approval. But this was something different. As the cheers grew louder, Barron took one last look at the audience, the faces of the industry's most powerful figures looking up at him with a mix of respect and admiration. He had come here as the son of a president, a young man still finding his place in the world. But he was leaving as something more, a voice for his generation, a challenger of norms, a disruptor in his own right. As he walked off the stage, the echoes of the applause followed him, a powerful reminder that even in a world dominated by algorithms and artificial intelligence, the human spirit still had the power to move, to inspire, and to lead. Backstage, as the doors closed behind him, Barron let out a long breath, his pulse still racing. He had done it. He had stood in the heart of Silicon Valley and delivered a message that would ripple through the tech world for months, perhaps even years, to come. As he made his way through the bustling backstage corridors, he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. He pulled it out to find a text from his father. "Proud of you, son. You made your mark today. Never forget, the world needs leaders with a backbone, not just a brand." Barron smiled, slipping his phone back into his pocket as he stepped into the cool California air. He had found his voice, and the world had heard it.